Thanks for joining us for this demonstration of our New Squared VT EMR software. I'm optometrist Dr. Joe Rao, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of the main features in our New Squared VT EMR software and how we use them in our VT office. Let's start with how we program and perform vision therapy sessions for patients. What we're looking at here is the patient's chart in New Squared. This is the patient dashboard screen, and it gives you a lot of information at a quick glance. We can access the patient's sessions by using the Sessions tab. In New Squared, we have a scheduler that allows you to add appointments, and those appointments will actually create the sessions in the patient's chart automatically, or you can use the Add button here to create sessions as well. Here we have a session scheduled that's ready to be programmed. So to program a session, we have a couple options. The first option is to use the Find Technique window here. The Find Technique window will bring up all the technique categories that are in New Squared. As you can see, there's a couple of differences here where we have green check marks for some of the technique categories and blank squares here for others. The green check marks indicate technique categories that are part of New Squared, and the check boxes that are empty, or the boxes that are empty, indicate techniques that have been customized and added to New Squared for this account. With New Squared, we allow you to customize and add techniques, questions that you record information, so that you can really make New Squared meet the needs of your office. To select a technique for the session, I'm going to search for a specific category, and then from that category, I'm going to select one or multiple techniques to add to the session by clicking the green plus button. I can also search for another category and add different techniques for that specific category. If I choose to remove a technique, I can do so by checking the red X button here. During this programming and also during the vision therapy session itself, I'm able to see the patient's diagnosis codes and focus areas, which are something that you can add individually for each patient. And this allows me to see which areas I'd like to work on for this particular patient. Once I have selected my techniques, I'm going to go ahead and submit those techniques to the session. And the next step would be then to actually select the approach that I want to do for each technique. The questions for in the therapy sessions to record the results come from both the technique and the approach that you select. So you do need to select both. For this particular New Squared account, we've selected the binocular approach as our preferred approach. So each technique is assigned binocular approach automatically. If I'd like to change that from the drop down, I can select any of the other approaches I like, and then I can save that. I can also select delivery methods. So if I'm going to be doing a technique using a piece of equipment, or maybe if they're on a walking rail or a balance board, I can also notate that in New Squared. When I have my selections, I go ahead and save my selections there. One of the nice things about a preferred approach is that some offices like to use the same approach for each technique. If you customize and add your own approach, then you can have that as your preferred approach, and you wouldn't have to worry about selecting the approach when you're programming your sessions. There's another way you can actually add techniques to a session, and that is copying forward from the previous session. So if I have a technique from session 10 that I want to perform in session 11, I don't have to search for it. I can just select session 10 and click copy forward, and then I'm able to select which techniques or techniques I'd like to move forward to the next session. I can also add some notes here for myself that will kind of give me a reminder of something moving forward from one session to the next. And now those techniques have been added to my next session. The approaches have also been pulled forward, and again, I can edit and change the approaches if I need to. You can also see that now there's a notation under the notes column here that we have a note for this particular session. And with that note, I can actually view that note by right-clicking on the session itself and selecting notes. And from there, I can actually see the note that was added, and I can also edit that note at this time if I'd like to. There's also a section for documents, which allows you to scan in a document. So during a session, if you're doing a technique that requires a tracing or something to be put down on paper, you can actually scan that into your computer and then upload it as a document to the patient's chart and directly to that particular session. Now that I have the session ready to go, I've saved it. This programming could be done prior to the session itself the day before. It could be done when the patient is actually there. You can add techniques as you go in the session, but I choose to pre-program here. So now I'm ready to go ahead and launch my session. So to do that, I actually click the Start button. And what we're looking at here is the full software version, which allows you to do all the features: scheduling, billing, sessions, exams. And so this is the screen that we see when we're using the full software doing the therapy sessions. We also have a mobile app, which we use to record the therapy results when we're working with patients in our therapy room, and we use an iPad to record the results. I will show you what it looks like, what that view looks like after we go through some of the features here. And they're basically the same features between the two softwares. They just look a little different. And the mobile app gives you that mobility by using the iPad in the therapy room. So on the left-hand side, we can see the techniques that we have selected for this particular session. Again, I can find a technique if I want to do something different. I can remove a technique if I'm not going to have time to do it, or I change my mind. Or I can make a copy of a technique if I want to do that again, but maybe change the approach, or I do one with the technique once with the right versus the left eye. But let's go through how we actually record the results. So the nice thing, or the goal what we have with NewSquared, is to try to make everything as quick and easy as possible when you're using NewSquared to enter your results. So most of the results that we'll see will actually be buttons that you can click, yes, no buttons, or options like multiple options here. There will be some questions that actually will prompt you for more information. So for example, if there is an eye turn, that will prompt me to record more information. Again, with NewSquared, you can customize, meaning you can add questions, and you can take the questions we have and edit them and change them in a way that suits your office a little bit better, so you can add additional questions here. Again, this is also something we do with the lenses used. If we need lenses to record their powers, then we can actually click on the button to show that. But if we don't use lenses, we don't need to see that. And again, so for this particular technique, I'm entering all the information. Suppression and diplopia also have some of those what we call conditional questions. And then we do have a few questions where you'll have to type some information, including the observations box that's included for each technique. So once I have completed this particular technique, I've added all of my results to it, I can save it, which allows me to come back and edit later, or I can finish the technique. And when finishing the technique, I have the option of selecting a technique rating. So these ratings can be customized for each office. And once you select a rating and finish, that rating is added to the patient's chart. And you can look at these ratings in a full overview with all the sessions and all the techniques shown at one time, color-coded by their ratings. We'll be able to check that out here in just a minute once we finish with the patient's session here. One other thing to show with the session, again, is I have the ability to see my diagnosis and focus areas during the session, and I can add notes and observations during the session as well. The other thing I can do is use the Add to Homework button to actually assign a home therapy technique for a patient's home therapy report. In NewSquared, for each patient, you can assign home therapy techniques and print a report to send home, or just to keep a list to manage which techniques they've been assigned for home therapy. For this particular technique, we've already set the homework instructions here, so that each time I add this technique, the homework instructions pop up, so I don't have to type anything. I just click submit, and then that is added to their home therapy techniques. And again, we'll take a look at where that is in the patient's chart also. So as you work with a patient, you can jump between techniques, you can record the results, and once you're done with your session, then you can actually return back to the patient's chart using the return button. One thing to note is once a technique is finished, it's notated with a red circle here, red dot, and that means you can look at the results, but you can't change them at this point. The green dots mean that you can still go in and enter results and make changes for those techniques. There's also a setting on the patient's sessions in their chart, as we'll see, that allows you to know if a session has been completed for the entire session, which is what the view status is. That means you can go in and check the results, but you're not able to make any changes. Or if you're in the resume status, you can go back in and work with that session and change things up with that. One thing to look at real quick is what this looks like on the mobile app. So I've pulled up and logged into the mobile app, m.newsquared.com. And for this particular patient, I'm going to go to that session that we were just working in. And one thing you'll notice is that with that particular session, I can view the techniques. I can also add a technique if I'd like to. And you'll see I just saved the information where this technique was finished, and it's already showing that that technique is finished. And so the nice thing with NewsQuared is that it's a web-based software. So being that it saves based on web-based, as soon as I save in one part of the software, it updates and saves when you log into the other part of the software. So in this case, I've just completed this technique on the full version, but it still shows me that it's completed in the mobile app. And again, you have the same features here to work with. You can add and remove techniques during the session. You can add to homework, is the add to homework button here. So it's the same functionality as what we have with the full software. Now a couple more things to look at with the full software again. We have the technique ratings at the bottom. So this is the overview that we like to use to see how a patient's doing in their vision therapy program. So it lists all the techniques on the left-hand side and then all the sessions by number here. And you can see based on the color coding how they're doing for those sessions. So with your patients, you'll probably see how some of the techniques will start as a beginner, change to intermediate, and then become successful. And you're actually able to search by categories so that if there's a specific category we're looking at, trying to make progress in a certain area, you'll be able to kind of track and monitor that progression using the rating system. The homework tab is where you can actually track the home therapy for the patient. So a couple of things here. You can add techniques just like you can for a therapy session directly to the patient's homework from this homework tab. You can also print a homework report, which allows you to print that report or email that report to a parent so they see exactly what their assigned home therapy is. And then for the office, you can actually see how they've done with their home therapy. So we've got certain techniques that have been completed, so we know that that was done and we're happy and we're moving on from that technique. And we also see some techniques that have been inactivated, so they're not completed, but they no longer have the active check mark here. That tells us that they may not have been able to complete that technique the way we wanted, and so we've discontinued that and moved on. So these are really the main features when we work with the patients in our therapy program using NewsQuared. One thing to note as well in the mobile app, as I go back to the patient's chart, is we do have the ability to do the home techniques on the mobile app, so we can assign home techniques and actually print from our iPads and give the report that way as well. Another main feature that we use for NewsQuared is the evaluation tests. With an evaluation test, the screen looks very similar to the techniques, and what you'll see is that any test or exam that's been programmed will be listed here. And a couple of things, again, the same statuses where you can see a test that hasn't been started, you see tests that have been started but not completed, and then you see some completed exams here. You can create customized reports in NewsQuared for your exam results. You do need to complete the exam before you're able to generate a report. And when we generate a report, it takes us to a screen that allows you to basically work with a word editor program to present the results of the exam. And these results can be generated using different report templates, and those report templates can be customized based on the type of report templates you currently use for your practice. And the way that we generate a report is that by selecting either the parent or the doctor report, it changes how the results are presented. So for a parent report, I'll select my evaluation report, and when I generate, it will pull in the results for that exam. And the idea is that with the parent report, it'll give the results more in a average, above average, below average type of presentation with some explanations as well. So this is where a parent can view the results and then be able to get an idea of what those results actually mean. These descriptions and parent explanations can also be updated and edited based on how you want to present the information. And again, the same thing with the therapy session techniques. Evaluation tests can also be customized. So you can add your own tests. You can take the exam test that's in New Squared and you can change it and edit it and present the information in the way that you want with that. Now, what we use the doctor report for is then to present a kind of a different look to the information. And in this case, what you'll see is instead of the above average, below average results, you'll actually get the specific information that's there. And again, what this shows, the results are kind of blank for this one because we didn't fill it in, but here's where the information will be automatically filled in when we do these exams. Again, the customization allows you to change these reports and edit these reports the way you'd want in New Squared for your office. And we help you with that setup initially when you get started. We show you the ropes on the customization, and then you're able to actually in the future customize and edit things on your own. But a lot of times, if there's assistance needed, we provide that support ongoing. Another thing I'd like to kind of finish up with here is some of the different practice management items that we use in New Squared for our office. We also use the scheduling and the billing features, which are great to as practice management tools. But some of the patient management things that we like to look at are the status tab. So the status tab allows us to track where our patient is in the vision therapy process. So this list of status are customizable. You can go in and change and edit them and remove or add, but you can track where your patient is along this status, and you can run reports that pull up patients under specific status. For instance, if you have patients who have completed an evaluation or a consultation, but they haven't signed up to start vision therapy, you can run a report that shows those patients and then allows you to contact those patients more easily. So it gives you a list of what to follow. And then we use the checklist as a professional correspondence checklist, making sure that we're sending reports to professionals if there's referrals, insurance information. Again, this list can be customized so that you can add as many items as you want to make sure that certain steps are being completed along the way when you're working with patients' professional correspondence referral network. And speaking of the referral network, New Squared allows offices to add referral sources to the software so they can be assigned to a patient. So the referral information here can be a specific person, whether it's an OT or an optometrist or any type of professional can be added, and that person's office information will be selected, and it allows you to create reports that are kind of customized or specific to those referral people, but it also allows you to track the patients that an office has referred and allows you to keep up the communication with those offices on specific patients that you are seeing and need to monitor. We use the referral network actually to send out newsletters and office information as a marketing and promotional tool. And so it really has a lot of uses and comes in handy for us in working with both our patient needs and our practice needs. So whether you're in a VT exclusive practice like we are, or provide VT services through your primary care practice, New Squared VTMR can help manage your patient and practice management needs. If you're interested in learning more, go to our website at newsquared.com and check out our blog posts. And also you can request a demo to schedule a one-on-one meeting with one of our optometrists, including myself, to discuss if New Squared VT EMR is right for you.